Okay, so we're back with another episode of Underreported.
Mm-hmm. Who are you?
I am Melanie,
And I am Melissa.
sisters,
Yes.
who are bringing you cases bringing you underreported cases of crimes against Black women and Black girls. We are very intentional about that, and they're done by Black women. Shout out to that. But the statistics show that crimes against Black women are reported four times less likely to be reported. Okay. Statistics show that crimes against Black women are four times less likely to be reported in the media than that of their white counterparts.
We just can't get no grace.
So we got our own media and we reporting them.
Boom.
Out here. So today's episode is really a heartbreaking, tragic, confusing, and just sad story about a 19-year-old woman. And 19, you're like freshly into adulthood. It's just really sad. It's heartbreaking, tragic, confusing even, about a 19-year-old woman who is freshly into adulthood. And 19, you are fresh into this grown ship.
The beautiful thing about being 19, it's literally what we call, or the age is the young adult.
Mm-hmm.
And it's literally the juxtaposition. Thank you. Of those young and adulthood kind of being in one, where you get to like still fall back on your mom and your dad if you need to. You have that safe haven, but at the same time, you really are trying to like spread your wings and fly. So it is really sad to have someone's life or, cut short at such a young age where you haven't been able to fully get out of the nest and enjoy life on your own.
Absolutely. And actually, just to what you were saying about being a young adult. So she's 19. She's living by herself, not under her mama's roof, but her mom has also just bought her a car. And so I think that's that young adult part.
Absolutely.
She's in school for culinary arts and she's an assistant manager at a sandwich shop. So she is like
doing it
on her way to being grown. She has everything going for her, but that comes to a premature end when she's found over 300 miles away in a wooded area behind a church, dead.
Oh, my gosh.
So this is going to be the story of Ashanti Billie. Okay, so before we go into this story, we should preface with that we are Army brats.
Yes.
We are very familiar with military bases and how they work.
The goings-ons of a military base.
Our dad was in the military. He was in the Army. So we lived on military bases all of our lives. And I only say that because I don't want to take for granted anyone who's listening who maybe didn't grow up on a military base. So we'll be trying to clarify or bring those kind of points out as we're talking about them. But they're all really, really similar. If you've been on one, you pretty much can navigate any of them. But they're their own little town or like kind of community. They have everything you need. You're like really, there's I would say like a feeling of safety.
Absolutely.
When you're on them.
Especially if you're lived on them post 9/11 when most of them became secure.
Yeah.
Meaning you needed a military ID of some sort in order to get on the gate. So it definitely offered, you knew everybody on the base was military or military adjacent, or you knew somebody on the military base. Crime is generally low. There's grocery stores on the military base. They have churches.
Yes.
They have schools for preschool, elementary, middle school, high school. You could literally live your entire life on a military base and never leave and have everything that you want, everything that you need.
And feel completely safe.
Absolutely.
So the story that we're talking about today is of Ashanti Billie, who was also a military brat. Both of her parents were in the military, and the sandwich shop that she worked at was located on the military base. So it's summer of 2017 in Virginia. Ashanti's mom just bought her an all-white 2014 Mini Cooper, and she is out in these streets. And let me just show you this adorable picture that her mom posted the day that she bought the Mini Cooper.
Oh, this is beautiful.
Yeah, and the caption says, "Finally caved in and bought her a car."
Aww.
Mama love, first off, is the hashtag, and then gas money fund. So it just really goes to that young adulthood. So Ashanti has her new all-white Mini Coupe. She is working as an assistant manager. The Blimpies finished construction over the summer, and it's located on Joint Expeditionary Base Little Creek in Virginia. So on September 18th, Ashanti leaves home around 4 a.m. on her way to work. She lives in Virginia Beach, and the base that she's traveling to for her job is about 15 miles from her house.
What time does she have to be at work? She leaves at 4.
Good question. She leaves it's reported that she left a little early because there's a health inspection scheduled later that day. So she wanted to get in some extra cleaning. She's responsible and the assistant manager.
Okay, girl.
So she's here trying to go clean early before everybody gets in. And she has culinary class scheduled later that day. So she's preparing to be gone pretty much for the day. So she's taking all of her things, getting on the road, like getting her day started. So she heads to work in her dark-colored Blimpies uniform, and you and I have seen those before. We have a cousin that used to work at Blimpies. You know those
Our
dark
cousin
shirts.
Tony. You guys have heard anything about my cousin Tony. That's the one we're talking about. We've all had our first jobs on base.
Yes.
Tony worked at Blimpie.
Yep.
Kevin worked at KFC.
Burger King.
I mean, not KFC, Burger King.
We worked at KFC.
Yeah, we worked at KFC.
Actually wasn't on the base.
No, it wasn't on the base, but most people worked at the commissary and they got tips. So it's very, like I said, it's a close-knit community on military bases.
Yes.
So her working at Blimpie is like no surprise at all.
Not at all. And she made it big because she's not just a cashier. She's
she was
manager.
doing it.
So she's wearing her dark colored shirt, and she's on her way to work. And at 4:44, she is seen on camera in her white Mini Coupe entering gate 3. So we should also quickly break down gates.
Oh, so on the military base, there's usually different gates to have access depending on where you're going because they're huge. Like some military bases are legitimately it's a city. And so they have different bases depending on where you work, where you live, or where you're going. So you don't have to go through one gate and maybe you're going all the way over here. So you have like an east gate, a west gate, a south gate, north gate, whatever. And usually, like I said, those gates are guarded and they do have cameras because you're entering a federal military base.
Yes. So she enters gate 3 and she's seen on camera doing so. A few minutes later, so like 2 minutes later, she is seen in her car with her same dark colored shirt, leaving that exact same gate. So she's leaving gate 3.
Okay.
And later it was reported that there was a car accident that prevented her from getting to her job from that particular gate.
Got it.
So she leaves, turns around to enter into another gate, which is actually much closer to her job. This gate is actually 250 feet-ish feet from her job. So she is seen leaving gate 3, and about 10 to 12 minutes later, she's seen entering gate 1, still dark colored shirt, same car.
Clearly the same day,
just got turned around. So she enters gate 1, and a few minutes after that, her car is seen on the Blimpies camera, and all you can see, and again, I just want to highlight that it's 250 feet from her job. So
that ain't far.
Not far. A few minutes after she's seen entering, so minutes, I don't know how long it's going to take her to drive 250 feet. But a few minutes later, her car is seen on the Blimpies camera. It circles the building, exits the parking lot, and then exits the base out of gate 1. But this time, the person driving has a light colored shirt on.
Oh.
So obviously, something happened. So the next time her car is seen is about 10 minutes later. It's on a residential camera. And it's stopped at a dumpster of a construction site.
Okay.
And it's in Norfolk, Virginia, which is about 2 miles from the military base.
Okay.
So the driver with a light-colored shirt is seen exiting the vehicle, throwing something in the dumpster, then getting back into the car. And the person appears to be average weight, 5'9", and again, wearing no other passengers in the car, and light-colored shirt. Obviously,
this is where it all went wrong.
Not Ashanti.
Oh, man.
So back at the Blimpies, right? The time is going. Other employees are showing up to start the day. And so one of the employees, his name was Andrew Estrada, he shows up at the Blimpies and he is surprised to find no one there. And he knows that Ashanti's supposed to be there. And he's like, she's always punctual. She's always on time. She's reliable. If anything, she would have been early versus late, which she was. So he called her phone. And when he calls, a strange man answers the phone, and he says, yeah, I found this phone in a dumpster over in Norfolk. It's undamaged. It's fully charged. I was hoping that somebody would call so that I could return it to its rightful owner.
What a good Samaritan.
So that is the first kind of piece that falls into domino. Place. That's like, she's not here. Someone has her phone.
Something's wrong.
Mm-hmm. So family starts getting called. Police gets called. They go to the construction site, to the construction worker, and they pick up the phone. They recover the phone. And so that's, again, kind of the first piece of this puzzle that begins to unravel about what happened to Ashanti. On September 23rd, 5 days later, after Ashanti has gone missing, her car, the white 2014 Mini Cooper that her mom had just bought her over the summer, was found in nearby Norfolk, Virginia, where the phone was found. Police quickly start investigating, and they find some of her clothing inside of the car.
Oh, no.
The car was parked flush to the curb. The windows were partially rolled down. The doors are unlocked, and the key fob on the passenger seat. Her work shirt, the work clothes. Pants, both dark, and one shoe was found within the rear compartment of the car. And the shoe was like within the pant leg. So, you know, like when you're taking it off at the same time. Yes. So that's kind of how they found it. And only one partial fingerprint was able to be taken. So crime techs said it seemed like somebody attempted to wipe the fingerprints clean because it was only a partial that was left. So 6 days after that, after the car is found, authorities make a gruesome discovery when the 4-foot, 11-inch girl.
Oh, she was little.
Was recovered in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, my gosh.
So she's left outside of a partially wooded area near a church. And an autopsy revealed that she was the victim of some kind of trauma. She was about 5.5 hours from her house, and a glove was discovered kind of like in the woods near where her body was. That's and awful. The way she was discovered is a landscape worker who was there to work near the church discovered her body.
Wow.
So that's how she was found. And so during interviews, police are starting to interview the neighbors where the car was found, as well as the employees. And they had reported seeing the car during the week that she had gone missing. And it was parked at various locations around the neighborhood and then just left obviously there until it was found. So on October 27th, so it's almost about a month, right, after she goes missing, the media and the police released the residential video of someone tossing something in the dumpster. So remember, that is the same day, and it was only minutes after she was last seen at Blimpie's that her car was seen at this construction site. So that footage is released. And one of the construction workers that helped build the Blimpie's, so remember the Blimpie's was built over the summer.
Yes.
So one of the construction workers who helped and who worked with that team of construction workers, he contacts the FBI, and he says that he watched the video and he wanted to report who it was. It was one of his construction coworkers. By the name of Eric Brown. He recognized Eric's walk and the clothes.
His walk? That's distinct.
That is distinct.
That's a Denzel walk.
Especially if you're a black man. He recognized his walk and the clothes that Eric was wearing in the video because they were clothes that he had actually given to Eric.
Oh my gosh.
So what the police quickly discover is that Eric is actually homeless. And so
how'd he get on the base?
So he was a vet. So he's a vet and he's homeless looking for money. And so he is helping to build this Blimpie. And so all of the coworkers are trying to help him out. They take him home sometimes. And this guy in particular had given him some clothes.
Got it.
And
so this is unmistakable.
The surveillance camera, he's like, oh, absolutely, I know who that is. So he calls the police. So the police, of course, start surveilling Eric. They locate him. And again, they're doing all their interviews. And what they discover from the interviews that they're doing is that he frequented the Blimpies. There are other businesses around the Blimpies. There's a 24-hour laundromat. And so what they are discovering is that the people in the laundromat thought that he worked at Blimpies, and the people at Blimpies thought that he worked at the laundromat because he was just there so frequently.
Sure.
So they just, figured that's where he worked. But the Blimpies coworkers started recalling how he would make sexual advances toward the women that worked at the Blimpies. So while the police are interviewing the coworkers and the employees of Blimpie, the coworkers start recalling that he would make sexual advances toward the women. And in particular, one of the coworkers remembered him saying to Ashanti directly, He said bands would make her dance.
Oh my gosh.
And he also commented on her, it's quoted as her big ass.
Oh my gosh.
And so this is, of course, just lining up with whatever the investigators are starting to gather as far as the information, as far as the other construction worker. And so they start looking into him even more, and they are following him and surveilling him. And so they also go back to the gate, right? So when they check the logs, they see that Brown entered through gate 1 on September 14th. So again, if she went missing on September 18th,
4 days earlier,
he is clearly on base, and there's no other log of him having to re-enter, which would indicate that he never left in those 4 days. So they also start looking at his phone usage, and what they see is that he kind of had a normal pattern to use the internet every single day. So from September 1st through September 29th, so the entire month of September, he is using the internet, except September 18th, which is the day Ashanti went missing.
Wow.
So it would only make you wonder,
what was you doing that day?
What was you doing that you all of a sudden using the internet? So based on phone towers, it shows that he was on base from September 14th, which again lines up with him entering, through the evening of September 17th, which is when all data ceased, until September 19th. So evening of September 17th, who knows what he had going on, but if she shows up around 4:45, 5 o'clock in the morning on September 18th, and all of a sudden he's not on his phone, again, this is all lining up. So September 19th, the day after she has gone missing, he gets back on the base. So there's log of him coming back on the base. There's also video footage that supports him coming back on. And they look at his phone, and let me just tell you the things that he was searching.
Oh no.
First, he made a search of police looking for man.
Oh my gosh.
Then he looks up Norfolk police looking for a man in connection with homicide.
Oh no.
Then he looks up Amber Alert 2017, missing woman and baby, which is a whole
baby?
Other question.
A baby?
Mm-hmm. And then missing woman and man. And then a few days later, so on September 22nd, he looks up JEB, which is the abbreviation for the base, Little Creek Blimpies.
This man told on himself in his search history.
So he is obviously looking to see if the police are looking for him.
Clearly. Let me tell you something. Your search history will tell on you every single time.
Every single time.
Every single time.
So after surveilling him for a few days, the police bring him in, and the DNA that was found on Ashanti's clothes when they went to her car matched his. So there was no doubt that it's
him,
the guy who kidnapped this woman and did who knows what with, and then put her in the woods behind a church. So in June of 2018, our court found Brown to be incompetent to stand trial. So he was diagnosed with schizophrenia in January 2018, and court documents cite that he requires treatment in order for the case to move forward. And so the other thing I think we were saying earlier is that he was a vet. Right. So I can only imagine some of the PTSD that happens normally or
could have occurred
frequently, for people who have been in the military. And so he has,
gone overseas for war. Because remember, we're living in a post 9/11 age. Our dad went overseas to war.
Yeah.
And there are remnants of that effect.
Absolutely. So his doctors say that he is a danger to be around himself. He's a danger to others. He is clearly mentally unstable and not able to stand trial. And so they put him in chain restraints at in his cell with a prison guard watching until basically they're doing all of this and finding out that he's not kind of competent enough to be to stand trial, which he eventually goes to a mental health facility. So court documents state that Brown told an informant, I'd imagine like a jail informant, maybe somebody in there,
got it,
that he hated black women and believed them to be gold diggers.
Oh my goodness.
Which maybe that's even some of his motivation. In 2019, he was formally charged with Ashanti's death. It was later learned that Brown kidnapped Ashanti as she arrived for work that fateful day. What exactly happened between the two remains a mystery, and to be honest, I don't think we want to know. We can only imagine, and even that's bad enough. But his DNA, like we said, was recovered from her body. The interesting thing is that the church where Ashanti's body was found, remember, it was 5.5 hours away from where she lived. So it actually was the church that Eric attended Vacation Bible School when he was a child. So he drove her all the way there and put her back there. And the wooded area, so behind this church, was only 300 yards away from his childhood home.
Wow.
So he took her to his own home.
Wow.
Yeah, which is crazy.
That is very interesting.
As of October 2020, a judge has yet again ruled that Eric Brown is unfit to stand trial. The judge believes that it's very unlikely that his competency will be restored. So despite this, the indictment against him has not been dropped. And if he is ever found competent, the prosecution will move forward with this case. But at this time, he is in a mental health facility.
Wow.
And her parents just have to deal with that. He won't serve his life in jail.
What a sad story.
What a sad story.
What an unnecessary death. And what's really interesting to me is the idea, and that's not to minimize the idea of mental illness, but I do find myself having a hard time reconciling mental illness and the day after Googling things.
Yes, same.
Yeah,
Same.
I do find that it's a little hard for me to reconcile because then I did something wrong, therefore someone's looking for me, so let me try to keep tabs on the story where the police are. It would seem to me that's what he's doing. And so for me, it just adds an additional complication to this. Again, that's not to minimize mental health because I do understand that's real. I do understand that. But that was a little hard for me to reconcile.
Absolutely. And now, I was looking at her mother's Instagram, and she just has so many pictures of them at concerts, at restaurants. They went and saw Cat Williams.
And the caption on this says, "Me and my baby girl."
There's just it's like
That's
this
heartbreaking.
Beautiful mother-daughter relationship. And, then there's also her gravesite of her mom celebrating her 21st birthday. Aww. And it's just so unfortunate. And her mother and her father actually, when they were talking to reporters once, just mentioned kind of what we were saying at the top of this, of how military bases are supposed to be safe.
Yes.
And they thought that she was safe going to work on this base. And it's actually where her life was tragically taken. So it's just really, really sad. But, all the best to her family and everyone who loved her. I think what came out of this that's interesting is that everyone is very familiar with the Amber Alert.
Yes.
And remember, he even looked it up.
Yes.
Many people maybe are aware or not aware of the Silver Alert. So that is for elder people who are missing. But there is this gap of people who go missing who are in between Silver and Amber.
Right.
Which I think Amber goes up to 12 or 13, but she was 19.
Right.
And so her parents and everybody fought for the Ashanti Alert, which is an alert that can go out when endangered or missing adults between the ages of 18 and 64 are unable to be found. So they created this, and one of the final things that Donald Trump did actually in 2018 is he signed the Ashanti Alert Act into law. So it is actually a law based after this story and after this amazing woman whose life was tragically ended. So
again, what a really, really sad story. I'm surprised this didn't make national news, something I had never heard of, especially on a military base.
I hadn't either.
And if Trump signed it into law, you would think it would have had a
Bigger.
More hoorah.
Yeah.
But again, that's kind of the point of this podcast as a whole, is to share these stories with you. And then you also learn that there's an alert out there for anyone that goes missing, or, hopefully that doesn't happen. But in the event that it does, that there is something out there that can help spread the news that someone is missing.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I think that's it. Thank you for listening.
Yes.
To our episode about Ashanti Billie. You can email us with any ideas or stories that you want us to cover. You can
It'll
email
be down low
us
somewhere.
Yes, we will put it
show notes
in the description notes. You can also follow us on Instagram at UnderReported Podcast, and you can check out pictures there as well. And that's it.
Till next episode. Bye.